Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I've got a nice balanced rack. I'm not seeing a 7. Through an A, I would have laureate. And through an R, eureteral. And I suspect a few others resolute through an S. So is opponent going to play or change? If he changes, I certainly won't be able to score very much with all 1-pointers. And, well, would I be better off changing myself? If I changed EU, I could keep later, which is a really good 5-letter set. And if I don't change EU, maybe playing EAU would be an option, but the rack leave of ELRT is a lot weaker than alter. Fantastic, an S for resolute. Does that have an anagram? I don't think so. And also an A for laureate, which doesn't get doubled. What about the F? I would have the full ending. No. So I think it is laureate, and I think this is the best spot for it. Wow, is it? Because laureate takes an A, an S, and a D, I think. So I'm going to play it here, laureate for 66. Pretty bad pickup. U and W, always a disappointment, and the rest of the rack, fairly grim. So I have Wilco on my rack, which splits up U and W, and the duplicate O. But is there anywhere for it? I don't have a D or an S. Wow, fantastic bingo by opponent, 83 points. And all these beautiful floaters on the board, and my rack a million miles away from a bingo. So, what to do? Wow, through an N I have uncoil. Keeping W and O, that's quite nice, but it doesn't score very much, and it stops 1 square short of a double word square. But what else can I do? I have ultion and oil nut onto the N. Wow, onto a D I would have wood. I have wall through this A. Let me see what that looks like. 14 points and a dreadful rack leave. So, can I do any better? Not seeing anywhere for Wilco. Wow, I'm thinking about changing. Well, what about playing low here? 31 points. I think that's better than changing. And although this is a dreadful rack leave, there are no duplicates. So can I do even better? I don't think so. And 31 points, it is a decent score. I'm going with this. Wow, ridiculously good pickup. Given how awful my rack leave was, I must be very close to a bingo. Through a Z or an M, I would have Zoesium. Neither available. So let me consider the floating consonants. How about the T? Well, let me first of all consider the OUS ending. Or IOUS. Well, nothing's coming to mind. Let me go back to considering the consonants. How about the N? No. G. No. L. I feel this is jolly close to a bingo. But maybe that's just the effect of the blank. And then there's the R, so absolutely loads of floaters on this board. but I'm not seeing a bingo. So what about a play beginning UN? No, not seeing anything. But I will be able to sort this rack out. Cal is good, but nothing goes in front of TO. E goes after low. So I could play EUOI. That would certainly sort the rack out, should it remain available. Could there be a bingo here? So tantalising. I wonder if I'm thinking of dioesis. And there's no floating D or S, so I don't have that. And it could be dioecious. Just 16 points between us, and I trail with opponent on turn. But with the blank, I have the hope of a good score soon. Great, only 20 points for opponent, and my UOI spot remains available. Do I have anything beginning double O? No, I think I've spent enough time looking for a bingo. UOI for 19. Wow, and I'm back to having W and U. So probably not a huge number of bingos, and possibly none at all, but no duplicates and a balanced rack. I have the out prefix. Not seeing anything there. The un prefix, uncoward, not good. What about the G? That doesn't look promising. How about the L? That's been taken. And I trail by 40 points. So many floaters on this board. What about the H? That goes well with the C. A 7-letter lane in column 14. I have the auto prefix through a T. I'm just going to quickly squiz through the alphabet and see if anything jumps to mind. And I'm mainly looking for 8s here. So this rack plus any floater. Not seeing anything so far. Still nothing. How about the S? Nope. Okay, so I'm not seeing a bingo here. How to sort the rack out? Is there a way of getting rid of the W with the U? Well, I have war, W-H-A-U-R, but that doesn't score very much. Nothing goes in front of Mal. 15 minutes on my clock. So what about out war? There's not much worth keeping on this rack apart from the blank. Out war 20 points, an okay score, and it keeps the board wide open. I'm going with this. Well, quite a big vowel shortage here, but the blank can be a vowel. So is scared good? If it is, it plays in column 14. I would have crusader through an A or an E. Not many floating vowels, just the I of tinglers. And I'm not seeing anything with that. I'm not sure about scared, but I'm not seeing any anagram of it, so it could be good. And I'm not seeing anything with the blank as any other vowel. Ah, well, I have scurried through this I. Great, that remains available. So let me see if scared is good, and if not, I have scurried. And it is good, fantastic. So I take a small lead, and I draw a ton of vowels. 5 vowels, so not many bingos here. I have Oni in column 1, O-N-I-E, which would sort the rack out nicely. Only 15 points, but sorting the rack out is the priority, and I'm not going to score very much jettisoning lots of vowels. I have Uri through an R, but no R in the right spot. I don't mind playing the G as well, but the G, when it stays on my rack, helps with the vowel consonant balance. Through a U, I would have Uoi. Now, do I have anything through this D? Well, only by burning the S, and it may be worth doing that, 1 S, 1 blank to come, but I could play Sugid. 30 points, that's probably worth doing. But opponent may well go there himself. So I have a 23-point lead. Now, wow, I think I do have this, but it doesn't quite work. I have Eugenes on my rack, but the N is just 1 square too low for that. And I'm not seeing any other bingos. The laureate hook never got taken. Now, opponent's played. Great, he's left alone Sugid. And he's also provided an alternative spot for playing, coming down from the R, taking advantage of ZO. But I think the only such play I can see is Ruse for 23 points. So I'm going to go with Sugid for 30. Wow, and I draw the final blank, which is fantastic, and the rest of the rack is looking pretty good as well. But my lead, only 30 points. Can I get a bingo down before opponent does the same? Still 30 tiles in the bag. And the board looking a little tighter in terms of bingo lanes. There's column 10 through or from the R, and there are the floaters in Tinglers. So surely I have something through the T. Patriate, yeah, that works. What about the N, or what about the T but ending in the T? That looks less likely. And what about a play through T and N? Patiented, that doesn't have double A. What about a play beginning anti? Fantastic, Patriate remains available. What about a play through the N, because Patriate doesn't get doubled? 14 minutes on my clock, which is loads. So I'm considering this rack plus an N. Well, that looks like there should be something, but I'm not seeing it. So, not seeing anything so far. So, impanate doesn't quite work. How about the R? Anti-rape, that doesn't work. Very high probability tiles here. No, not seeing anything. So I think I will go with Patriate for 60. And I draw the Q, which isn't good. But I have an A for cat and caddy. Now there is a Q spot above the I of Sugid. Is there an alternative? I don't think there are any U's out in the open. And opponent's taken that spot. Very takes an E in front, I note. 17 tiles in the bag. So, are there any I's or T's in the open? Wow, if I had a T, I would have canat, bottom left. So, no. Well, how about turning over tiles? 2 T's to come. So I could play Dree. 21 points. If I draw a T, I have canat. If that's blocked, I have cat, top left. Every takes an R and an S. 17 tiles in the bag. I don't want to play off any more tiles because I need both A's for canat. I am going with this. Well, I miss the T's, but I draw a D for caddy and cade, and caddy plays top left. Does it play anywhere else? Surely it does. That could easily be blocked. Well, I have chin as well, and chin in column 1, so I'm certainly not stuck with the queue. But it would be nice to play caddy. I'll get a much bigger score. So, wow, I'm not very far ahead, just 21 points. That's not very much, 22 points. In which case caddy would be a really good play to get down. Still 13 tiles to come. I also have Cade in row G, making Todd and Mally 26 points. And over 40 if I can get it down in column 2. Opponent might like to leave the P alone as a bingo floater. And he may also wish to keep the N available as a bingo floater. Caddy is going to take out both of those. Great. Well, not so great the score, but great that Caddy remains available for 41. And a nice balanced rack, just 5 tiles in the bag. No U's, so no big Q play. Coming in row A. But look at this, only a 20-point lead. Can I hang on? And look at that, I didn't comment at the time, but Jap for 60, that's why I don't have a bigger lead. I hadn't appreciated quite how much opponents scored. Now, do I have a play in column 3, beginning with an I? So what goes after AD? Just the O. So, wow, I have icon. Wow, that's going to be a big score. Will that remain available? I have Batik on my rack, but looking around, I'm not seeing many good scoring spots for scoring tiles. But even a score of a play of key or co would get 18 points. And when you lead by 20, scores of 20 and 30 can be just enough to get you over the line. 4 vowels left out of 12. So opponent could be dealing with a lot of N's, or he could have a very bingo-y rack. And the N is still available as a bingo floater, but significantly hampered by caddy. Will opponent open a new lane? So what if icon is blocked? What am I going to do? Oxo is good. Not seeing anything in row N, which scores very much. Fantastic. Icon remains available for 47 points. And now I have a 40-point lead, 46-point lead. So opponent will win if he bingos. But any bingo now would be amazing. This looks a super non-bingo-y board. I'm not going to go out with this rack, but I've got two good scoring tiles in the B and the F. I have baffed on my rack. Can't see anywhere for that. Marler takes nothing in front. Faves takes a T. I was just looking in column 6 to see if I had a play down through the E, but I don't. The best I can do there is FAE. I have, well, no, I don't have Fab and Bow. Bow not good. So I haven't seen anywhere to play off F and B. Out War takes a D. I don't think it takes an N. Now, can I place my F? Ah, well, I can. I can play Feign. And if that's going to be a 30-point play, that should be enough to get me the win. But I can't see opponent coming back from this deficit. The bag is empty. And he really needs to bingo to win, and I don't think he's going to. He should have 2 moves to my 1, but I don't think that's going to be enough for him. I have Bath in row J, which gets rid of B and F. And I would like to get rid of both of them, because if I do only have 1 move, then the other tiles on my rack will count towards count back. 6 minutes on opponent's clock. Now, fairly near the beginning of the month, so brand new video up on Patreon. Many thanks to all patrons of the channel. You keep the channel alive, and as a thank you for that, I put up a video every month exclusively for Patreon subscribers, which is a 5-minute game, very exciting, and this month is no exception. And all new patrons or any patrons have access to the full back catalogue of 5-minute games, and there's a substantial number of videos there, and they are very exciting because you're under time pressure right from the get-go. So many thanks once again to all patrons who support the channel, and do consider doing so if you're not already. The link is in the description below this video. Now, usually when I mention Patreon, opponents plays, but that hasn't worked this time. He's still running down his clock. But I think it's a forlorn exercise. He needs to find a bingo. And, well, where has he got to look? Possibly through the R, making sham. But I don't think he's got one. Now, as well as Patreon, there's also some very exciting tournaments coming up. The tournament scene has burst back into life after the long period of lockdown. So I've got the National Scrabble Championships coming up next weekend. The following weekend is the Continental Championships in Berlin. And then at the beginning of July, there's a huge tournament in Chicago. So I'm hoping to go to either 2 or 3 of those. So great face-to-face Scrabble coming up, and there's also an Ilford tournament in the middle of those 3. So a golden time for Scrabble right now. Okay, a few connection issues, but now it is my turn. So what has opponent done? I think opponent has played Says, S and E. So I have Tub for 14. And the final score, 423 for my opponent, 467 for me, a winning margin of 44 points, so a huge, huge win. Let's see what I missed. It was my opponent to go first. He plays Faves, and now I have Laureate and Resolute. And now look at this for a rack for my opponent. Absolutely fantastic. Tons of bingos, and he goes into the lead. This was a rack I struggled with. And F12, low. That was my score, and certainly better than changing. Opponent plays Wow, missed bingo. Out voice. F1. Gosh, there was an out bingo. Out voice. Okay, well done if you spotted that. I missed it. And I went with Uoi for 19, which amongst the non-bingo he plays is reasonable. Horrible rack for opponent, plays Blight. And another missed bingo, wow. Through the T, Law Court and Out Crawl. Wow, a UW bingo, and I miss it. Okay, and look at that, 95 points left on the table. So I play Out War for 20 and remain close to my opponent, who plays Nyx. And now I have Scared with Scurried as an alternative. Wow, dreadful rack for opponent, plays Kaz. And I play Sugid for 30. And I could have played Goonie, J1. Down through the N for 24 points, keeping ES, and that's probably would have been a better play, but not by much. Opponent still struggling, plays Very. And I play Patriate. Oh wow, and it would have scored more through the I. Is that right? No, through the R of Laureate, it would have scored 72. What do? I get 60. Wow, far lower score. So yeah, quite a few options playable through this R. Opponent plays Jap, and this was the huge play. I didn't realise quite how much he'd scored, but it meant that there was just 1 point between us. And I played Dree in this spot. Slightly less than the biggest score, but with a view to retaining the option of playing Canat. Ordinarily, I wouldn't wish to retain duplicate A. Opponent's rack plays Tined, and now I have Caddy for 41, which was a welcome sight. Gave me a small amount of distance with opponent. Now opponent with close to a bingo rack plays Ham, and I have Icon for 47, so 2 back-to-back 40-point plays really put me in a good position. The bag is now empty, and this was where opponent spent a long time, and there just isn't a winning move for him, so he plays Enol. Wow, I play Feign, but I could have played Feint for 3 more points. But I think Feign, although I should have considered both, I only saw Feign, and actually retaining BT is better because it gives me an out. So I play Feign. Opponent does have a choice of outs, in which case Feint would have been better, but he plays Says for 30, and then finally Tub is the only out. So what a game. Super close. Great play by opponent of Jap to bring us to just 1 point apart, and then I was able to get 2 40-point plays down with Caddy and Icon, which gave me a 20-point lead, which in the circumstances of the game was enough to put me in a very strong position in the end game, and so it proved. So many thanks to my opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.